The deep dive is back, and we are jumping into a really universal experience today.
Oh, yeah.
It's that moment of panic when you realize the English you learned in a classroom, all those grammar rules, the vocabulary lists, is, well, totally inadequate for checking in at a frantic international airport.
Or trying to politely ask a concierge to fix a broken air conditioner.
Exactly.
It's that gap, isn't it? The gap between theory and, immediate application. Textbooks teach the mechanics of a language, but real-world travel demands confident, real-time, and polite communication in these very high-stakes practical scenarios.
And the stakes aren't just academic.
Not at all. They're logistical, they're diplomatic, and they are often tied directly to your stress level and really the smoothness of your entire trip.
Exactly. You're not trying to recall a past perfect conjugation. You're trying to manage luggage restrictions and schedule changes and all these cross-cultural expectations in the moment.
In real time.
So today we are taking a deep, critical look at a resource specifically designed to close that gap. It's the Tourism English podcast, Speak Confidently While Traveling.
Right.
We're going to unpack the philosophy and the curriculum that promises to sort of shortcut a learner's way to functional fluency in these very specific travel situations.
And our mission today is to understand not just what they teach, but how their methodology actually works to build real confidence.
Yeah.
Because the primary aim here isn't just, translation. It's the ability to speak confidently, naturally, and politely. And that word politely, I think that's the key.
I find that so fascinating that the curriculum puts politeness right at the front and center.
It has to.
It sort of implies that the success of an interaction, especially a transactional one, hinges less on perfect grammar and more on, effective diplomatic delivery.
That's a powerful insight. The difference between success and failure in a service interaction, globally, often just comes down to tone. So the methodology in our sources, it's entirely targeted. It relies on a core format. Short, easy-to-follow dialogues.
Okay.
Coupled with vocabulary explanations, specific pronunciation tips, and this is crucial, real-world examples of how English is actually used in tourism globally.
So this sounds like language training designed for immediate memory recall.
Yeah.
For high-pressure situations, not for passing some final exam.
Exactly. It's highly efficient.
Okay, so let's move right into section 1, the foundation of this whole approach. Why targeted travel English is essential. Why does general English knowledge so consistently fail travelers the moment they step outside the classroom?
Well, I like to think of it this way. General English gives you the bricks, but it doesn't give you the architectural blueprints for a specific building.
I like that.
You might have a huge vocabulary, but if you haven't internalized the specific script needed to, say, contest a confusing charge on a hotel bill, that general knowledge is, in that moment, useless.
It freezes.
It freezes. The core failing is in this specific skills gap. General English teaches broad concepts. This curriculum targets practical communication used during the exact moments of travel.
And the source material, it explicitly states the goal is to improve both listening skills and speaking fluency. Can we unpack that? Why are those two so tightly connected in a fast-moving travel context?
Because in travel, communication is often, asymmetrical. You, the traveler, are constantly receiving vital, complex information.
Right, like those airport announcements.
Rapid-fire airport announcements or complicated directions given by a local or, a tour guide's nuanced explanation. If your listening skills are weak, if you struggle to process high-speed, accented, or jargon-heavy speech, your ability to then formulate an appropriate response is completely compromised.
The whole chain breaks down.
The listening breaks down, the speaking stalls, and the podcast methodology, it tries to mitigate this by using these short, easy-to-follow dialogues.
You're isolating the interaction.
Exactly. It reduces the cognitive load. It lets you, as the learner, focus on processing only the necessary contextual information, which makes comprehension much less daunting than trying to process, a continuous unscripted conversation.
That makes perfect sense. Less noise, more signal.
Yeah.
So let's go back to this power of politeness and natural language. We can't overstate this. Why is the emphasis on speaking politely in these cross-cultural interactions so absolutely critical?
Politeness, or you could call it linguistic deference, it acts as a universal buffer, especially when communication is already tense with language barriers or just, stress.
Yeah.
The curriculum focuses heavily on teaching these specific polite expressions that signal respect, patience, and cooperation.
And linguistically, how does that work? Is it just saying please and thank you?
It's much more than that. It often involves using indirect language structures. So instead of using a blunt command, you use complex modal verbs, sometimes even in the past tense, which conveys a kind of extreme deference.
Can you give an example?
Sure, so instead of, can I have a new key, you might learn to say, I was wondering if I could possibly get a new key.
So the complexity isn't for grammatical correctness, but for its diplomatic impact.
Precisely. If you need to report a problem, a wrong meal order, a delayed flight, the way you frame that issue determines the outcome. Directness, which might be fine and efficient in some cultures, can come across as rude or aggressive in a service setting somewhere else.
So you just get a defensive reaction.
You get a defensive reaction. This approach teaches how to use what we call softeners, phrases that cushion the demand. This helps you report an issue without causing offense, and it keeps the service provider collaborative rather than defensive.
That diplomacy is just crucial for getting things sorted out smoothly.
It's everything.
So let's talk about the other structural elements that make this learning so efficient for, a busy traveler. Beyond the short dialogues, how does the focus on real examples and pronunciation tips really streamline the whole process?
Well, by focusing on real examples from global tourism, the learning is immediately relevant. They're not learning phrases from, 19th century literature.
Yeah.
You're learning what hotel clerks and customs agents are saying today. This avoids that classic trap where travelers use technically correct but completely outdated or overly formal language.
And the pronunciation tips. I think a lot of learners assume that if their vocabulary is accurate, they'll be understood. But you're arguing that sounding natural, getting the right intonation and pacing, is just as vital for confidence. Why is that a core pillar here?
It's about optimizing for the listener.
Yeah.
English is a stress-type language. If you misplace the stress, say you say art reservation instead of reservation, it can make the word unrecognizable for a moment to a fluent speaker.
They have to work harder to understand you.
They have to work harder. And when a learner masters the natural rhythm and intonation, they build a kind of motor memory for the language. This dramatically reduces the cognitive load when they're actually speaking.
So they can focus on the what instead of the how.
Exactly. They can focus on the content of the conversation, their booking details, the directions, rather than struggling with the mechanics of just forming the sounds. And that feeling of clear, natural delivery, that's the foundation of real conversational confidence.
That's such an actionable insight right there. You have to train the ear and the mouth for the music of the language, not just the words.
You do.
So let's just confirm the target audience here. Who benefits most from this laser-focused approach?
Well, the obvious group is travelers and English learners who are actively preparing for international trips. They need rapid functional skills to cut down on that travel anxiety.
Okay.
But the second group is really telling. Tourism professionals.
So the people on the other side of the counter.
Exactly. And that validates the whole approach. If someone working in a major hub like Dubai or London needs this curriculum, it confirms that the operational English for check-in, for bookings, for customer service, it's globally consistent.
That reinforces the quality of the model. If it's industry standard, it's the right thing for the learner to be aiming for.
Right. And finally, of course, anyone seeking real-world conversational English beyond the classroom benefits, it connects the linguistic theory directly to a practical application.
You're equipping them for specific communicative tasks.
Precisely. It's moving beyond just general competence to what you might call procedural mastery in a travel environment.
Okay, let's unpack the 4 pillars of the curriculum, starting with Pillar 1, navigating high-pressure environments, the airport and the flight. This is where stress peaks, right? Because everything is on a tight schedule and the consequences of a misunderstanding are immediate.
The airport is an unforgiving environment. It's a crucible of urgency and very specific jargon.
And the curriculum starts, logically, with the first hurdle, the check-in challenge. This is a choreographed interaction, isn't it? Handing over passports, confirming details, navigating those security questions.
And it's fast, factual, and procedural.
And it immediately demands that you understand rules and roles. You have to be able to successfully ask about baggage rules. This is where precision really matters.
It really does. Are we talking about weight limits? Dimensions?
Yeah.
The difference between a carry-on and a checked bag.
Right.
The traveler needs to know the exact phrasing to confirm they're compliant. Something like, is the carry-on limit strictly 7 kilograms, or is there an allowance for a personal item as well?
That's a great example. You have to communicate concisely with airline staff who are under immense time pressure. They don't have time for you to hesitate.
No, they don't.
But the truly difficult part, I think, as we discussed, is the passive listening mastery, the importance of understanding those announcements. how does the curriculum even begin to address the challenge of poor acoustics and that super high-speed delivery?
This is where we have to get into specific linguistic challenges. Airport announcements are packed with phrasal verbs.
Ah, the nightmare of every English learner.
Absolutely. These multi-word verbs are notoriously difficult to process quickly. Think of phrases like, the flight has been delayed by 2 hours, or please stand by for further instruction, or passengers are asked to proceed to gate 45. If you as a learner haven't trained your ear to recognize those phrasal verbs as a single unit of meaning, the entire announcement can be lost, and that leads to major confusion.
So the podcast must be drilling listening exercises that focus on identifying these critical verbs and keywords amidst all the background noise.
It has to. It's not just about listening for the words delayed or gate. It's about recognizing those high-frequency operational verb structures.
And this leads right into the vocabulary deep dive,
Yeah.
the high-stakes jargon. We see terms like boarding gate, layover, departure time. Let's focus on that classic pitfall, layover. Why is confusing layover with stopover potentially trip ruining?
Oh, it can be a disaster.
I can just imagine a tired traveler thinking they have time to leave the airport when they absolutely do not.
That's the danger. The curriculum has to focus on this non-negotiable terminology. A layover is a temporary stop between two segments of a journey, where you often just stay in the transit area. It's usually less than 24 hours. A stopover, on the other hand, is a planned break in the journey. It often lets you leave the airport, check into a hotel, spend a few days in the city, and crucially, that might require a different visa or going through customs.
I see.
So if a traveler mistakenly uses the word stopover when they just mean a short layover, they could confuse airline staff, cause logistical errors, or even run into serious immigration problems. Precision with this jargon is paramount for just itinerary survival.
It transforms a simple word choice into a huge logistical issue.
It does.
The benefit here is clear then. The learner moves from this generalized English knowledge to actual procedural competence. And that drastically reduces anxiety because they know exactly what language to use in a time-sensitive crisis.
It creates a linguistic safety net. They aren't just practicing English, they're practicing airport procedure in English.
Okay, let's transition now to Pillar 2, establishing your home base. So, hotel and accommodation English. This feels like a shift in communication, right? It goes from that hyper-procedural urgency of the airport to something that starts transactional, but can quickly become relational.
That's an excellent distinction. It starts with the simple transaction, checking into hotels. Name, reservation, duration of stay.
The basics.
But the learner has to quickly transition into detailed inquiry. And proactive questioning about room facilities is so critical here.
Because you need to establish comfort immediately. I'm assuming this means asking about Wi-Fi, which is basically mandatory now, but also about things like climate control.
Absolutely. It's all about managing expectations and preventing those midnight disasters. You need to proactively ask about the functionality and the cost of the Wi-Fi. You need to confirm how the climate control works, inquire about amenities like laundry service, understand the minibar charges.
If you wait until you're settled in your room to discover the complimentary Wi-Fi is actually super slow or the heating system is complicated, you're already frustrated.
So learning how to phrase those proactive inquiries, something like, could you please confirm the network name and password for the complimentary Wi-Fi? It prevents problems, and it shows respect for the staff's time.
And this feeds right into the necessary service requests. These are the polite imperatives of the accommodation world requesting housekeeping, asking for directions, or maintenance.
Yes, and this is the perfect segue to what I think is the key differentiator of this curriculum, the crucial skill of polite problem handling.
Right.
The curriculum focuses intensely on teaching the learner how to handle mistakes or problems politely.
Let's really analyze this technique. So I walk into my room and the shower's broken, or maybe the key card doesn't work. What is the linguistic technique the curriculum teaches to report this issue without, escalating the situation or making the staff defensive?
It relies very heavily on formalized indirect language and avoiding any language that implies blame. The goal is to frame the issue as a neutral observation or a request for assistance, not a complaint or an accusation.
Can you give us a concrete example of the grammar at work here? What does that sound like?
Certainly. So instead of a demanding direct statement like, the shower is broken, fix it.
Which is what you want to say when you're tired and grumpy.
It is. But the specialized technique employs multiple softeners. First, you might apologize for the inconvenience to them. I apologize for troubling you, but I seem to be having a slight issue.
Okay.
Then you use conditional or past tense modal verbs to create distance from the demand. For example, I was wondering if someone could possibly look at the shower. It appears to be running cold, and I'm afraid I can't seem to adjust the temperature.
Wow, that's so different. The use of "I was wondering" and "could possibly" establishes that difference you were talking about.
It shifts the focus from the staff's failure to a shared problem that needs a collaborative solution.
That indirect approach, it completely removes the implication of blame, and it invites collaboration. It makes the service provider much more likely to prioritize a swift, positive resolution for you.
It's diplomatic language applied to customer service. The curriculum instills this competence so that when you, the traveler, face a real issue, a wrong billing charge, a noisy neighbor, a missing amenity, you have the linguistic toolkit to address it effectively while maintaining a respectful and cooperative interaction.
That mastery of hotel diplomacy is just key to enjoying the rest of the trip.
Absolutely.
So let's move from surviving the logistics and settling in to pillar 3. Engaging with the culture. This is sightseeing and tours. This requires more proactive conversational English designed to really enrich the experience.
Right.
The language here shifts from necessary transactions to more curiosity-driven interaction.
This is where fluency moves from being a necessity to being an opportunity. You, as the learner, need skills to actively gather information and shape your own itinerary.
The first skill listed is proactive planning and recommendations. It's not enough to just ask a vague question. The learner needs practice understanding and asking nuanced questions that invite genuine local insight.
That's right. Asking what is good just gets you a list. But asking what local site is worth the wait, even with the crowds, and what is your personal favorite nearby restaurant that maybe tourists don't know about, that requires a much higher level of conversational dexterity.
Yeah.
So the curriculum has to teach the necessary subordinate clauses and comparative language to formulate these complex questions. It signals to the local person that you're truly engaged and you're seeking an authentic experience.
Then you have the logistics. Practicing the language for booking tours and attractions. This is a multi-step interaction involving price, availability, and policy.
And this is where the learner has to be prepared for a variable conversation. They need to understand how to ask about the price structure. Is it just an entry fee, or does it include transportation? And then move into questions about availability and cancellation policies. A key phrase here is clarifying what's included versus what is optional. For example, does the tour package cover the cost of admission to the museum, or is that a separate entry fee?
And speaking of tours, let's address a major hurdle. Following instructions. The challenge of understanding tour guide instructions. These guides are often experts, right? Speaking rapidly about complex topics, and they're often blending local terms with their English explanation.
This is a critical analysis point. Tour guides are under immense pressure to deliver a lot of information, historical, geographical, technical, very quickly.
Right.
And they're using specialized jargon, terms related to geology or architectural styles or historical timelines that the average traveler just doesn't use.
And on top of that, you have the accent.
You have the accent. The learner needs intense practice with high-speed delivery and, crucially, exposure to different global accents. You might have a guide in Rome who speaks English with an Italian accent, or a guide in Peru with a Spanish accent. You have to train your ear to process the core message amidst all those linguistic variations.
The difference between understanding meet back here at 4.15 sharp and missing it entirely can throw off your entire day.
That's the high-stakes outcome. And the curriculum aims to prepare the learner by drilling language specific to time and access. Mastering language for talking about schedules and tickets is essential.
So that includes knowing how to politely ask for clarification or repetition.
Yes, exactly. Simple phrases like, would you mind repeating the meeting time? I just want to ensure I have that correct. Or asking about potential delays. Has the tour ever been delayed by weather?
We've covered these structured scenarios: airports, hotels, tours. Now, Pillar 4 focuses on the everyday reality, seamless daily life, the varied, spontaneous demands of interacting with local culture outside of those formalized transactions.
These are often the most challenging interactions precisely because they're unplanned. They require immediate, flexible language use. You can't rehearse a script for trying to find a remote bus stop after dark.
Let's start with culinary communication. The language required for ordering food in restaurants is far more nuanced than tourists often assume, isn't it?
It goes deep into the necessary details for both health and preference. This includes mastering the language for dealing with dietary restrictions.
Which is so important.
It's critical. The traveler must be able to specify politely and clearly that a dish must not contain certain ingredients. For example, I have a severe allergy to peanuts. Could you confirm that this sauce is completely nut-free? You are learning to manage risks through precise language.
It also involves understanding detailed menu descriptions that might use regional English terms, and the practical conversation for requesting the bill or splitting costs.
All of that.
Next, getting around. Navigational fluency. The practical conversations for asking for directions. This requires understanding spatial language and following often nonlinear instructions from locals.
Locals rarely speak in map coordinates, do they? They use contextual, landmark-based language. They might say, go to the corner where the large statue is, turn left, and walk until you see the bakery with the red awning.
Right.
You as the learner need practice recognizing and interpreting this spatial language. And you need to feel confident enough to ask for repetition or to confirm your understanding by repeating the directions back.
So you might say something like, just to confirm, I turn left at the statue and the bakery is the landmark for the next turn.
Exactly. That proactive confirmation is a key skill for ensuring accuracy.
Okay, moving to commerce. Shopping and bargaining. How does the curriculum address the specific skills required for respectful negotiation?
Bargaining, where it's culturally appropriate, is a conversation. It's built on tact and culturally appropriate softeners. It's not just shouting numbers at each other. The language needed requires specific phrases to express initial interest. I find this craft item very appealing. It's beautiful work. And then inquire about the price indirectly. What would be the total cost for this piece?
And then making the counteroffer.
Gently. Would you consider $6 perhaps? And crucially, knowing how to walk away politely if the negotiation stalls. Thank you so much for your time and for showing me your wonderful items. The tone has to be friendly and respectful, avoiding any hint of aggression.
So the language of a market stall negotiation is a completely different register than the language of a formal hotel check-in. The learner has to be able to switch between those instantly.
A great observation. That flexibility is what builds true conversational fluency in travel.
Finally, within daily life, we have public transit management. Using the English required for public transportation, buying tickets, understanding routes, asking about transfers.
The necessity here is speed and accuracy. You have to understand the different formats of public communication signs, verbal directions, automated announcements. You need functional, fast language to navigate complex systems, like asking a ticket agent, I need a ticket that allows a transfer to the Green Line at Central Station. Is there an all-day pass for that route?
Knowing those functional questions reduces the time you spend holding up the line and ensures you actually buy the correct fare.
Exactly.
So we've covered the 4 pillars of travel communication, from the immediate crisis management at the airport to the spontaneous interactions of daily life. Now, let's synthesize the overall integrated skill set that this structured approach is designed to build. This is where competence transforms into real confidence.
Indeed. The confidence is a direct result of mastering these integrated skills across all 4 pillars.
First, let's go back to pronunciation and rhythm. We touched on this earlier, but let's go a bit deeper. The curriculum highlights practicing natural pronunciation and rhythm. In the grand scheme of communication, why are intonation and pacing often more important than having perfect vocabulary for maximizing clarity?
Because language is processed in rhythmic chunks. If you as a learner use the correct rhythm, pacing, and intonation, the listener can actually predict the next word or phrase. It makes comprehension seamless.
So you're making it easier for them.
You're making it much easier. If the rhythm is flat or uneven, a monotone delivery, the listener has to exert significantly more effort to decipher the meaning of each word individually. The right pacing helps signal your intent. Are you asking a rapid question, making a polite suggestion, expressing surprise?
Oh, I see.
Mastering this music means that even if you use a slightly wrong word, your clear delivery signals your intent and makes the whole communication clearer. You're optimizing clarity for the receiver.
This proficiency then feeds directly into the focused vocabulary and expressions. We've seen how learning polite expressions for travel and targeted travel vocabulary creates a really high return on investment.
It's the 80-20 rule applied to language learning. They're teaching you the most critical 20% of the vocabulary that you will use 80% of the time during a trip.
And the sustained emphasis on polite expressions ensures that even when you have to improvise, when the unexpected happens, you still maintain a respectful and productive tone.
That's the safety net.
Now, for what is maybe the most critical skill for the modern global traveler? Accent adaptability. The crucial skill of understanding different accents clearly.
This is absolutely non-negotiable in global tourism. English is the international lingua franca, which means you, the traveler, will encounter speakers from every corner of the world.
Fellow tourists, local guides.
Service staff in Asia, Europe, South America, they will all have varying levels of proficiency and regional influences in their English.
Right.
An English learner must train their ear not just for pristine, Native American or British speech, but for the diverse real-world rhythms and pronunciations of global English. A curriculum that incorporates real-world audio from around the world explicitly prepares you for this linguistic diversity. It eliminates the shock of hearing English spoken differently than you practiced in a textbook.
That exposure is key. So the actionable step here for you, the listener, is exposure. Actively seek out and train with English spoken by non-native service staff, not just what you hear in native media.
Absolutely. And when you synthesize all these elements, the targeted jargon, the polite phrasing, the mastery of rhythm, and this accent adaptation, what is the cumulative result?
It's confidence.
It's the single most important outcome, building confidence to speak with locals.
Because confidence is the psychological barrier that you're trying to overcome. The fear of making a mistake, the fear of misunderstanding, the fear of being rude, those anxieties can be crippling.
By mastering these specific high-stakes scenarios, you remove the cognitive guesswork. You know exactly which phrases and structures to use, whether you're handling check-in, ordering a meal, or politely negotiating a room issue.
And that competence transforms into measurable confidence.
Exactly. Instead of anxiously avoiding interaction, you are empowered to engage genuinely with the culture and the locals. And that dramatically enriches your entire travel experience. You transition from an anxious tourist to a competent diplomatic traveler.
This has been a true deep dive into a highly practical and specialized learning structure. We've seen how this curriculum guides the learner from that initial high-stakes anxiety of the airport through the diplomatic necessity of problem handling at the hotel and into the proactive, curiosity-driven interactions of sightseeing and daily life.
And we've established that this learning structure provides a clear, practical shortcut. It moves you straight to the communication challenges that matter most during a trip. It ensures thorough preparedness across high-stress and everyday scenarios by focusing intensely on context and diplomatic delivery over just a sheer volume of theoretical knowledge.
So, the actionable takeaway for you, the learner, is that effective preparation means not just knowing what words to say, but fundamentally knowing how to say it politely, naturally, and with the rhythm and specific jargon that the situation demands. The delivery is the diplomatic success factor.
Indeed. And if we acknowledge that success in travel English really depends on handling problems politely, making sure you get the help you need when you need it most, it raises an interesting final thought for you.
Okay.
Considering all the complex phrasing we've discussed today, what single brief phrase, a 2- or 3-word phrase, can you use that instantly conveys both urgency and extreme respect in any scenario? A phrase that signals to anyone, across cultural lines, that you require immediate but courteous assistance.
The ultimate concise diplomatic tool. Ponder that power of respectful, urgent language as you prepare for your next international adventure. Thanks for joining us for the deep